filmmaker on YouTube more talented than Oki. Every time he uploads, it's just like this wonderful event. So big, even my cat can't help but jump up here and watch some of his content with me. I think Oki's Weird Stories is one of the best channels on YouTube, and he recently uploaded another banger covering a story that I'm sure most people aren't familiar with. So I'm going to show you some clips from that. I am also going to put a link to his YouTube channel and Patreon in the description below. Go support him, please. I think he makes amazing content, and he's just such a great guy. He's super nice. Every time we've talked, he's been nothing but wholesome, and he's got these incredible ideas for the future of his channel, and I just can't wait to see them unfold. So definitely go check out his channel, and if you're feeling inclined to help him reach his goals, then check out his Patreon. It's all below.
Millionaire and computer hacker Daniel Beckwith had dug an elaborate network of tunnels underneath his Bethesda home because he believed North Korea was planning a nuclear attack.
What the fuck?
His body was found after.
Daniel Beckwith created a makeshift bunker and had another man help him dig tunnels underneath his Bethesda home.
He kept Askia Khafra captive there, and in 2017, that home went up in flames.
Jesus
On September
Christ,
10th, 2017, Askia Khafra died in an electrical fire while digging tunnels for a makeshift nuclear bunker underneath Daniel Beckwith's home. They struggled to navigate through Daniel Beckwith's home because of extreme amounts of debris and trash blocking the way. Before he succumbed to carbon monoxide
sounds like
poisoning,
a 4chan
Askia
home.
was only 2 steps away from almost certain safety, but the hoarding conditions of the home prevented him from making it out alive.
The entire situation is unresolved.
Askia Khafra.
How is it unresolved? This sounds pretty cut and dry. The dude was one of those outrageously unhinged doomsday preppers, like probably a gang stalker as well, thinking the whole world's out to get him and everything's about to end. And he must have fucking snapped and ended up killing him. How the fuck could this be an unresolved case? I mean, I guess we're just at the beginning here, so this is all just like the intro, but to me, like off rip, this sounds like a pretty classic case of someone with one of those mental illnesses just losing control and ending up killing someone.
At a young age, he displayed an aptitude.
Hold on, I want to read that. That is some Reddit shit right there. I am a genius, AMA. Just read what I wrote. Just read what I wrote. I came off as sort of cut off. I can get a bit Sheldon-y. I scored the ceiling, IQ of 160 plus, standard deviation of 15. Usually, my IQ's usually been estimated in the 170s by my psychologist. Was this on like a Rick and Morty post or something? Jesus Christ.
He was so cringe. Like he was like, "Oh, I'm just like, you know, these psycho, like smart, like serial killer type people. If I want to get into just the craziest thing he ever did, it was."
Hold on, I don't want to read this. I mean, this is the kind of guy that would get made fun of on the board. Is this posted like as satire by him? I don't think so, if he's calling into a random phone show talking about this kind of shit.
And I'm gonna use this air gun to like shoot this raccoon in a cage, and like, you know, this is crazy. Like this is like legit psycho behavior. Like one of the most psycho thing he ever did. Sure.
One of the biggest indicators early on that someone's going to end up as some kind of serial killer is animal abuse, like the torturing of small animals and shit. That is a phenomenon that's been studied so many times, and there is a direct correlation between hurting animals when you're young and taking that to people down the line. That is like one of the most cut and dry correlations ever.
Like he wanted to come across as this crazy psycho,
and yet for some reason it still gets like dismissed pretty often by law enforcement. You guys remember what was his name? Pushin Entertainment? I forgot how to say it now. He's the guy that would torture and kill cats on YouTube. He was a 15-year-old. That kid didn't go to jail. He got investigated. He's not in jail. And it's because they don't take it seriously. It's, oh, it's a kid, you know, it doesn't matter that he was torturing and killing the cats.
He was a strange kid, and that's an understatement, but he had taken a video of himself taking a syringe and extracting synovial fluid from his knee joint, putting it into a shot glass or a small cup, and then drinking it.
Yeah, this is his computer and his work area. Yeah,
what
so
the
this is
fuck?
Basically me standing in the doorway.
That's worse than Chris Chan
bedroom.
taking a shot of his cum.
Did all of this
Police officers then searched.
Damn, those penis emails,
Inside,
though.
they found a rifle,
Worth it.
the hood of a fire protection suit, several lockpicks, reverse-engineered ID cards, and keyloggers. They also found a list of social security numbers belonging to faculty members and students.
It was the most filthy, disgusting room I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there was stuff everywhere.
Daniel was arrested and formally charged with 5 counts of property damage, 2 counts of computer fraud, tampering with documents, and illegally possessing a firearm. After that, Daniel took to Reddit to do an Ask Me Anything titled, I'm a 22-year-old who is going to plead guilty to a felony computer hacking charge in 5 days. When someone asked, what did you do? He responded with, I launched a huge, multifaceted attack against my university for nothing but lulz, involving just about every attack.
God, what
in
a
the book.
fucking loser.
I made the university's IT department look like damn fools.
I mean, I guess pretty epic prank. Take that, university. Peak Redditor. I mean, this is some Reddit-ass shit.
Daniel inherited $2.6 million after his mother's death. With that, he began to invest in Bitcoin, and he made a fortune. In a now deleted Reddit comment,
shit.
Daniel thanked the technology board on 4chan, G, for turning him onto Bitcoin as early as 2010. In a Reddit Ask Me Anything,
I am still so fucking mad, and I can't believe this came up in, what was it? It must have been 2012, maybe, yeah, probably 2012. I've mentioned this a million times, and I mention it every time it gets brought up. There was a post on the front page of Reddit that said, I strongly urge you to get into Bitcoin. And then another one like, Bitcoin has just hit $100. And I, as well as pretty much everyone I knew, was like, that's stupid. That's fucking dumb. It's never going over 100. It's worthless. Why would we ever do that? And I didn't put anything into it. God damn. So this was this seems about right, though. This seems like the kind of person that would actually put money into Bitcoin back then. You had to be out of your fucking mind to think it was a good idea. Jesus Christ. Just a random cringe lord loser doomer on Reddit was one person that just happened to put money into that fucking Bitcoin post. And it paid off.
I actually got a call, and it was an IRS investigator. And they were asking me about his Bitcoin account. They were basically saying that he was in possession of basically like $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Around the time of the call, the Bitcoin were like $55,000 of Bitcoin. And he had $1.2 billion worth of them, like, you know, somewhere in the blockchain. That was around the time I found out that he had, he hired that kid and he died, in that tunnel.
What the
at his house in Bethesda.
On the site was a section dedicated to software developing and investing. One day, while watching the infamous farm Martin Shkreli live stream on the site, he first laid eyes on Daniel Beckwith. Daniel, who used the handle 3alarm Scooter, impressed Askia. Not only did he seem to be friends with Martin Shkreli, but he also claimed to be a multimillionaire investor and hacker.
I still remember I never saw any of those streams, but I remember Martin Shkreli, for a brief period of time, had a whole Discord server that fucking worshipped him. Kai and I went in there one night because we were curious and just wanted to laugh at the clowns that were, for some reason, sucking the dick right off of Shkreli's body. And Martin Shkreli was sleeping on a voice call, and they were freaking out about how lucky they were to hear him sleeping. It was so unbelievably fucking pathetic. God, that whole community was awful. And when he did get arrested, I don't remember exactly what happened, but they were like, "No, this is outrageous. He didn't do anything wrong. What? Oh my God, this is blasphemous!" Fucking crying, losing their mind over it. It was a cult. Martin Shkreli's farmer bro. He's the guy that did like the 10,000% price hike on Fuck, what was it? What drug was it? I don't remember now. Was it insulin? Yeah, I think it was insulin.
And I remember him saying that, I thought it was kind of odd. Like, oh, interesting, this guy's a bunker. What do you have a bunker for? And I remember him saying, I've been building this for a while. It's just to keep myself protected and safe in case of a nuclear war or a nuclear disaster.
With Daniel's
fucking
funding,
huge
they
red
bought
flag.
brand new tailored suits in preparation for their meeting with the Teal Fellowship manager. All they had to do was make it to the meeting on time and make a great pitch. But unfortunately, that didn't end up happening.
I don't remember how, but we somehow end up putting in the wrong address. But we end up going to the wrong location. At that point, we're just like, we're just freaking out. You know, we don't know what to do. And we get to the meeting and we're about maybe 15 minutes late.
Why a red flag? He isn't wrong. Is that bait? Hey, excuse me. I've got to go back down to my bunker for my canned food just in case of a nuclear war breaking out real quick. Are you serious? That has to be bait. That's like actual gang stalking behavior. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. I think there's a level to it. When you're building an underground network of tunnels and a bunker because you're afraid of a nuclear war going down at any minute, that is a mental illness.
I'd literally...
Oh my god. I can't tell what's bait and what's not. I don't think that's crazy. There's nothing wrong with being generally anxious about things. I have a flying phobia. It's irrational, and I recognize that, but it's a phobia, right? I think that's totally fine to be like, I have a fear of nuclear bombs going off at some point. But then it has to be this barrier, like this filter in your mind where it's like, that is a little irrational. Maybe I shouldn't build a fucking multi-million-dollar bunker because I'm afraid of this disaster happening. And maybe I shouldn't be wearing a bulletproof vest anytime I'm out in public. It's not crazy at all. Do you go outside in a bulletproof vest every day? Might be multi-purpose bunkers also work for general apocalypse scenarios. What in the world is wrong with you? What do you mean? There is a problem when your entire life is revolving around a fear. So much so that you're building a bunker to avoid the imaginary boogeyman of an apocalyptic scenario unfolding where you need this bunker to be the last human being on Earth with your canned food and prepping and wearing a bulletproof vest anytime you're out in public. That's not even a hot take. That is a problem. I get shit for being afraid of going on a plane, and rightfully so. I get that it's irrational. How in the fucking world can you possibly try and justify a man spending so much on this bunker and wearing his bulletproof vest out in public, and then eventually hiring this man to dig out the underneath of his house for an underground network of tunnels because he's afraid of North Korea nuclear bombing his house? That is like schizophrenic behavior. That goes above gang stalking.
He asked me to stop the car and he jumped out the car and went by somebody. He came home afterwards, you know. But you see, you also, as a father, you have to be careful that you run off a child permanently. Many things I told him, he would rebut it and tell me Beckwith was competent at that, Beckwith was competent at that. It was like Beckwith was a Superman. It was so...
It's crazy what you can ignore when you have that much respect for someone.
I remember definitely the first time around, I just started screaming to all the neighbors, you know, help, help, fire, fire.
What were you thinking was going to happen to him at that point?
I was hoping he'd either run out there or he'd go out the back window.
This big window
Big
here.
window there, or the window well.
Well, this one's got bars on it.
Well, that's not the window. Yeah, that one does have bars on it on the side. I don't think you could get out there. That doesn't have
bars. He put bars on his... Oh, of course he put bars on his windows. He's got a fucking bunker and tunnel system.
And then there's that window well.
Nuclear war.
I thought he also could have got out there.
Of course he barred his windows.
Well, preferably, he would have just gone down into the tunnels and gone out the backyard.
Why didn't he do the obvious? Come to my voice. I am on the safe side of the basement. There's not much smoke on my side. There was a door there. He indicated that he went...
Yeah, I mean, I think this is absolutely a murder.
Why wasn't it possible?
I completely agree with the dad here.
Daniel said that he tried to get inside the house to save Askia a total of 4 times, but that he was driven back by the overwhelming heat. During his attempts to enter the house, he said that he removed a propane tank, gas cans, and other combustibles.
On the way out, you told me originally that you took a couple of gas cans.
Yeah,
but I never found those.
Well, one was supposed to be in the front yard and the other was on the side.
Okay, so I didn't get that. So
somebody might have walked off with them. Jeez.
Okay.
I'm no expert here, but this looks like some absolutely fucking terrible acting that I'd see in like a bad Hulu original like The Grim Cuddy. What? Someone must have walked off with one of the gas cans that I was put in the front yard? Jeez.
He said that he...
I will say, and before we continue, People are asking, well, why would he kill him? Clearly, this guy is unhinged. I think that much is very obvious. He's very worried that everyone's out to get him. He wears the bulletproof vest when he's out in public. He duct tapes Askia's eyes, blindfolded him to get him to the tunnels. Duct tapes his eyes so that way he's blind when he goes outside for fresh air because he's afraid Askia may turn on him at some point and tell people where his bunker is. So I think what may have happened is he got this fucked up idea that Askia was plotting to reveal his location or turn against him, and he killed him for it. That would be my guess. How in the...
I could have picked him up and taken him. I was so close. Well...
How could anyone watch this and think for even 1 second this wasn't a murder? That is not how anyone would respond to a situation like this. No, this is like worse than YouTuber apology level acting. Naturally.
I think the screwed up part about it is even if, we got what we wanted, like if he was put away for life, that would only be a semblance of what I feel like we could consider justice, because it's not going to change the fact that Askia is gone.
Never does, but
we can't.
At the very least, it gets this guy
been denied
out
the rest of his life because of somebody else's.
No, you can't do it to anyone else. Because according so far to the story, Askia wasn't the only person, right? You mentioned, was it the Dick Rocket guy? Someone else had also worked on the tunnels. It wasn't just Askia that Beckwith had convinced to lend aid to. And then there was also the construction worker that we didn't get to hear from, but it wasn't just Askia. The unfortunate name, well, not an unfortunate name, Dick Rocket's a fucking hype name. Just unfortunate in the situation here because it's a super sad story.
Daniel, I'm gonna put a measuring cup full of money out on the front porch so we've got it on the way out, okay?
This place is so creepy, yeah. Because he was just a filthy, hoarding lunatic. So, okay, this is a misconception going on right now. He's not a billionaire. He had $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, but it doesn't seem like he ever cashed it out. So I believe, Oki said, at the time of this, he had about 16 million in actual cash. But he had the $1 billion worth of Bitcoin somewhere that he never cashed it out. So he's not actually a billionaire if he doesn't have access to it. And it looks like he never cashed it out. But yeah, multi-millionaire. Very, very wealthy.
Well, right now, 2 more stories you need to know about as we head into this week. A bizarre case will finally come to an end tomorrow. Daniel Beckwith is set to be sentenced.
Now, I want to let you know...
That is great news.
Murder. The judge at the sentencing gave him 9 years. 1 less than the minimum. Gave him 9 years. And
what the fuck is the point in having a minimum sentencing when it comes to a crime? What the fuck? The reason the minimum is there is that it's not supposed to go lower. How can you just be like, yeah, I'm just going to disregard that? I don't... What? How does that make any sense? I don't think he paid off the judge. It doesn't seem like he had access to his money. That makes no fucking... It's a goddamn law. Like by giving less than the law dictated minimum, wouldn't that be breaking the law from her? What? Can that happen?
What about my feelings? Don't I matter? You are praising this gentleman who did a criminal act, who 12 jurors believe committed.
Okay, how about this? Even if he didn't kill him on purpose, which I really do still feel he did, what the fuck does he offer society? He walks around in a bulletproof vest and hires people to work on an underground bunker in complete secrecy, blindfolding them, refusing to let them outside with their eyes open without giving them duct tape glasses, and just sits in his fucking hoarded, shit-stained, diaper-filled house. What is he offering to society? But he doesn't even offer money. He doesn't spend his money. Half of his money was in fucking measuring glasses. He doesn't even fucking spend it. That makes no sense. That actually makes no sense. Now I am starting to believe the conspiracy that he did somehow pay off someone somewhere. That makes no sense. No sense. Even if, again, you don't find him guilty of killing on purpose, or what was he charged with? The depraved heart manslaughter? I'm getting charges mixed up. Even if you don't find him guilty of that, saying that he has a lot to offer society, so I'm not going to give him the minimum. But he, for the last fucking 20 years, has done nothing but live in a hoarder's house and build an underground network of tunnels because he's afraid of a nuclear fallout. Jesus Christ. But I'm starting to believe more in the briberies thing. Because, again, he had tons of money. He never spent any of his money. Maybe he dumped it all at once into this.
Why was Daniel able to enter the basement several times during the fire and roam freely enough to remove gas canisters?
That's a great fucking question.
I also don't understand why Daniel told him to escape through windows, which mostly had steel bars on them.
And that's what the father mentioned.
Instead of directing Askia safely to one of the doors that he testified he had used repeatedly.
I don't know, it was probably like years later that it really hit me that I'm not gonna see.
What a great fucking point here. I actually didn't even think about this one. Because he did confirm he went down there multiple times. He even said he removed those gas canisters, and that's in that interview. He's like, oh, one of the gas canisters should be on the front lawn. He's like, it wasn't there. Oh, geez. I mean, maybe someone must have taken it. That is a great point. If his exit was blocked by so much hoarding debris, how the fuck could Daniel go move around in there, maneuver things, and freely just take some shit out? And again, guiding him to a window instead of just saying, hey, come with me to the door that he is using repeatedly. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he never made me feel like I was a loner, like an outcast.
Like I said, his earnest home in a box. That box has been there for 5 years. It has not been touched. It's in the same position. We have a pit there, a kind of shrine for him, with a large photo of him in his ROTC uniform and, you know, something saying love you to the moon and back. And there can be no closure.
No, there never is in something like that, man. Jesus Christ. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And as always, until next time.
That's all you need to know now.
Best documentary maker on YouTube, man. Oki kills it every time. If you're a fan of documentaries, absolutely go support his Patreon. Absolute bangers, nothing but. And he's a great guy. Man, that video made me mad, though. Not because of Oki. The story made me mad. That is very frustrating. On TikTok, there lives many evils. Some cringe, some criminal. Just like the Force with the Jedi and the Sith, there exists a balance. And today, we're gonna tiptoe and tap dance all over that line between cringe and criminal as we look at a completely deplorable individual named Madison who hatched a diabolical scheme to fake cancer, apparently with the goal of getting her family back together. At least according to her, that's the statement she made in court as to the motive behind faking cancer. Which, if that really was the goal of it, that is a worse plan than anything Ed, Edd n Eddy ever hatched for jawbreakers back in the day. It makes no sense, but basically, she faked cancer, eventually started getting, like, public speaking gigs, I suppose. She documented her battle with it in an attempt to, like, uplift people, I suppose. She also made a GoFundMe which collected like $37,000, which turns this whole thing from just a complete fabrication for the sake of attention, possibly, into a full-blown scam where she was taking money from people under a complete lie. And then, eventually, the whole house of cards came crumbling down after an investigation concluded that she made everything up. Now, I can't find the first videos she started to post about this. It only exists, from what I can find, in a Ray William Johnson video he just posted covering this, so I'm just going to show you a clip from that.
They found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old.
Oh, but that's not even the worst part. She also had leukemia.
The 5-year outlook of survival is a slim 11%.
But does all this stop Madison? No way. She sees it as an opportunity to document her battle and uplift others.
What an incredibly evil thing to lie about. Now, of course, she's far from the only person on the cyberspace to lie about having cancer. In fact, there was a really recent story I just talked about like a month ago about a poker player who lied about having terminal cancer in order to raise money to enter a poker tournament. But anyway, back to Madison. So she posted a lot of update content going over what was happening, and this includes photos that she would take. Photos that she would stage since she didn't actually have cancer. And I can't find a ton of them. The only one that I can find that was a big smoking gun is again from Ray William Johnson's video. So he's got like all of the old artifacts here to preserve the story, I guess. So I'll show you a picture of it here, which is this. And a lot of medical professionals saw this and noticed that there was some very fishy shit going on here. It was starting to raise some red flags, sound the alarm bells that, this may not be a case of her having cancer, but instead an undiagnosed case of terminal clout disease. God rest her soul. So the medical professionals pointed out a lot of things that just didn't make sense about the photo. Some inconsistencies, not even using real medical tape, just a laundry list of problems with the photo, and anonymously reported it as suspicious. It got the attention of the Eldridge Police Department, and they conducted an investigation, eventually subpoenaed for medical records from Madison, and found that she'd never been diagnosed with any kind of cancer or tumor from any medical facilities. So it turns out her cancer diagnosis is about as real as Goatman, which is to say, not real at all. Sorry to all the Goatman enthusiasts out there. I don't mean to burst your bubble. I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but it is what it is. He's not real. But what is real is this mugshot right here. Madison was arrested in January. I also didn't mention that even outside of like that one big photo that a lot of people pointed out and heavily scrutinized for inconsistencies, she was posting other photos that weren't hers, apparently. She would use photos from actual cancer patients and post them as if they were her updates, which is unbelievably evil. Like, the whole thing is so genuinely disgustingly evil, but like to me when I learned that portion of it, I couldn't believe just how low she sunk for this. Also, it was recommended that Madison not face prison time because she didn't have criminal history and had good grades in college, was employed, which made her less likely to reoffend. Which I think is a bunch of baloney. What a load of dirty barnacles. What do her good grades in college have to do with anything here and her ability to lie about having cancer again? No, she'll never do this again. Wait, look at her report card. She has an A in kinesiology. Obviously, she's not going to pull this stunt again. Don't be ridiculous. No prison time at all. She's learned her lesson. Just slap her on the wrist, send her home. So, someone spoke up about that. Her name is Rhonda Miles, and she runs a pancreatic cancer foundation in Nashville, and they actually donated to Madison and testified at the hearing. It was devastating to sit there and watch Scott County prosecuting attorney act like a defending attorney, so that was tough. And I think she'll have a lot of questions to answer from the locals on that at some point. Why are you defending this girl when you were supposed to be prosecuting? I couldn't agree more. This is not something that is just some whoops-a-daisy mistake kind of silly, stupid, quirky, dumb decision that a young person makes. It's not. This is a cold, calculated, evil plan that she did make like $39,000 from. I don't know why they took it so lightly here. But anyway, before I get to what her sentencing looked like, why don't I let you hear from her herself when she talked about this in court.
20-year-old Madison Russo pleaded guilty to a charge of first-degree theft after police said she pretended to have cancer and received donations online.
I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this in an attempt to try and get my family back together.
I saw a comment point something out pretty profoundly. It said her plan was to get the family back together, and it worked. They all came to court with her. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. She never said how the family was going to come back together, so, But I don't necessarily believe that. I feel like if the plan was to get the family back together, why the fuck are you making a GoFundMe and making money off of it, right? Plus, let's just assume that your nefarious plan you cooked up worked and your family all did come together to support you. It's absolutely going to crumble when you don't go to doctors to get your treatment, right? So if the family came together, they would immediately know that you are a lying sack of shit, because you would not be going to any of these treatment facilities, and they'd want to support you, right? So they would immediately know that something is wrong since you're not actually getting any treatment from any medical professionals. It doesn't make sense. So I don't think that was the real motive. That was just trying to weasel her way out of a very, very serious situation here because she scammed people out of $39,000. Now, she was ordered to repay that money that was donated to her, which is good. So all of the people who donated money, I believe, got money back for it. So it's at least a nice conclusion for them. They didn't just lose out on that forever.
The judge sentenced Russo to a suspended sentence of 10 years. That means she won't go to jail unless she gets in trouble in the future, but it will go on her record.
And basically she received probation, where as long as she doesn't do anything stinky again in the next 3 years, she won't go to jail. But if she does reoffend and do something bad, then she will. Overall, I think she got off pretty easy from this. Oh, I forgot to mention she has 100 hours of community service work, which, you know, that's not exactly the harshest punishment here to fit the crime, if you ask me. To deceive people with a lie like this here and rake in $39,000 with people that believe they're supporting a cancer patient who's going through an incredibly intense battle is so sickeningly disgusting. And I cannot believe how light the sentencing on not only her case, but cases similar to this have been in the past. Like I said, she's not the only one to do this. She's actually far from the only one to do this. But for some reason, they never actually face big repercussions for it. And I guess I just don't really understand why, because it is still a big, very lucrative scam that they're engaging in. It's highly illegal. So why is it always so light with the punishment? I don't know. Sometimes they don't even face punishment. There's been a couple of times in the past online where people have faked cancer, got a bunch of donations, and then just left, vanished, and they, you know, come back a couple years later, pretend it never happened, and they're just fine. They don't get in any trouble or anything. I don't know. It's just so weird to me. But yeah, I wanted to go over this pretty evil case here of a TikToker being a big ol' sack of shit. That's about it. So yeah. All of you know I'm a huge wrestling enthusiast. I absolutely love it more than Garfield loves lasagna. So much so that we actually have our own wrestling league, the Moist Wrestling League, and we even dropped our most recent episode a few days ago. This isn't meant to be a plug for it or anything. This is actually a really serious topic. The reason I mention that is because I'm just showcasing my passion for this craft. And for the longest time now, many decades, there has been this stain in the wrestling industry with a boogeyman that sits atop the food chain. His name is Vince McMahon. He is a cockroach that no amount of pest control can seem to get rid of. I'm confident even if you don't follow wrestling closely, you know Vince McMahon. He is extraordinarily wealthy and he has infested tons of other things even outside of just the wrestling industry. And this man is downright evil. He has a laundry list of deplorable, disgusting, heinous acts that would make the devil flinch. I've talked about him at length quite a bit on streams and even in a couple of videos in the past, so I'm not going to be focusing on his sins from the past here. I highly encourage all of you to just Google his name. It's not hard to find any of this information. It's all just right there out in the open, right there at your fingertips. It is horrible stuff. I'm not talking about just like some drama where he was mean behind the scenes, which of course he was. I'm talking about covering up crimes, sexual misconduct. The list goes on and on and on, seemingly no end. And that's just what we know. There's probably still tons and tons of skeletons in that fucking closet. But anyway, the reason I'm talking about Vince McMahon again today is he is now at the center of another massive lawsuit here that has actually forced his hand and had him resign from his position at the WWE/UFC. They recently merged the multi-billion-dollar deal, and Vince McMahon, in light of all of this, has stepped down. The information comes from someone named Janelle Grant, who worked at the WWE's headquarters and is accusing the company's founder, Vince McMahon, of sexual assault, sex trafficking, and physical abuse in the lawsuit that was filed on Thursday. According to the lawsuit, Grant alleged that McMahon promised a job and later promotions at WWE in exchange for sex, and the lawsuit also includes allegations that McMahon trafficked her to other men inside and outside of the company, and there is a couple of names that get dropped that are some very big, alarming names, obviously. Now, even if you're not part of the wrestling community, I bet you've heard some buzz about this lawsuit because some text messages allegedly leaked from it, as well as some of the claims in the lawsuit are extraordinarily disturbing. Like, it is some depraved shit. And I mean shit, literally. One of the big parts of this lawsuit that was popping off on Twitter, like general Twitter, was this section where Miss Grant is talking about a threesome that McMahon put her in. And she says, early in the encounter, McMahon immediately directed Miss Grant to lay down on her back in a supplicating position. While straddling over her, McMahon defecated on Miss Grant's head. McMahon left to shower off, but he instructed Miss Grant to remain in place with excrement in her hair and to continue performing for his friend. While Miss Grant requested protection, none was offered. McMahon and physical therapist actively continued with the threesome and directed Miss Grant's sexual performance for around an hour and a half while she was left covered in feces. Absolutely sickening and sadly not surprising behavior from Vince McMahon. I believe this is only the tip of the iceberg. I think this is the first domino to fall, and there's going to be a lot more information that comes out about some of the degeneracy, some of the crimes and awful shit that was going on behind the scenes under Vince McMahon here. Now, I saw quite a few people caught off guard by this, surprised to learn that Vince McMahon is a bad guy. They were wondering how this stayed buried, or how any of the sexual misconduct allegations didn't surface sooner. Like, how was it all kept a secret? I had to do a bit of a double take when I saw that. I got fucking stun-locked for a second. Now, of course, it's no one's fault. I don't blame anyone for not knowing about Vince McMahon's past. Like, if you're not an active wrestling fan, there's a really good chance you just didn't know any of this about him. But the only secret here is that there was no secret. Everyone knew about Vince McMahon's sexual degeneracy. Vince McMahon's sexual degeneracy is about as much of a secret as smoking cigarettes being bad for your health. This fucking ghoul paid nearly $15 million in hush money to quiet 4 women who were bringing up claims of sexual misconduct against him that had occurred over a period of 16 years. And that's actually why he previously stepped down. Now, of course, he stepped back up into a prominent position with the company after the merger with the UFC, and now he is stepping down again, once again, from sexual misconduct claims. So it's just never really been a secret that this decaying corpse, this fucking revolting gremlin of a man, is a horrifying piece of shit. It's just more people are opening their eyes to Vince McMahon being this fiend. Thanks to Janelle Grant's lawsuit really making waves and highlighting a lot of previously unknown things like the sex trafficking and some of the other names that were included here to show how deep this rabbit hole goes and how awful all of it was. Now, sexual misconduct is something Vince McMahon calls home, so this isn't his first rodeo, and he tried to cover his own ass. Not literally, because he shit on someone's head, but legally tried to cover himself by trying to pressure Grant into signing a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for payments over several years totaling $3 million after their relationship and employment ended. So he was trying to silence her, to make sure she wouldn't, blow the lid off of this. Now, I'm no lawyer, I'm no expert, but I don't think a non-disclosure agreement protects you in the case of crimes. Like, I don't think if you're sex trafficking someone, you can have all of your victims sign an NDA and then they can't speak about it, you're safe. And if they do speak about it, they're the ones in trouble. I just can't imagine a world where if Grant signs that non-disclosure agreement and then goes forward with bringing this information to light, that she would face punishment for it. Like, I can't even picture that kind of lunacy. Like, listen, ma'am, we're really sorry about that sex trafficking thing. That's bad stuff. But you violated your NDA. And breaking an NDA is so much worse. You're going to prison. You're going to the slammer for that. You don't violate the contract. It's sacred. It's binding. Like, I just don't think an NDA protects you in the case of a crime being committed. Again, I'm not an expert, though. The only NDAs I've ever signed were to play a video game early, not poop on someone's skull, among other horrible, horrible acts. Allegedly. It's fucking scary stuff what was going on behind the scenes at the WWE with Vince McMahon. The parent company has issued a bit of a statement here. The parent company is TKO Group Holdings, and they said that McMahon doesn't control TKO or oversee day-to-day operations at the WWE, and that while this matter predates our TKO executive team's tenure at the company, we take Ms. Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and are addressing this matter internally. And a spokesperson for Vince McMahon also made a statement and said that the lawsuit was replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself. I wish he would vigorously try and dive into a wrestling ring and tear both of his quads again. This is an evil man, and he has been evil for the entire time he has been with the company. And more people are starting to see this now. He is a fucking stain in the industry. I know there is still a lot of Vince McMahon fans because they separate art from the artist. He plays a character in the WWE, the commissioner, and he has been kind of iconic in the scene. I get that. Like, there is a lot of great WWE moments that, unfortunately, Vince McMahon is there for and was a big part of. Like, he played the role well. But as a person, he is terrible and a horrible person to have at the position of power that he does in the industry. He shouldn't be in the industry. He shouldn't even be outside of a fucking jail cell for the things he's done. Like, I can't separate art from the artist when it comes to something like this. I just can't do it. I know there are people that are, and I'm not like mad at you for it or anything, but I can't. He is just absolute trash, scum, the lowest of the low, and I will of course be keeping my eyes on this lawsuit as everything continues to develop here. I just wanted to give you like the very bare bones of it, like the basics. There is so much to it. I urge anyone out there that's curious to take a look, but just fair warning, it is disturbing. It's very not pleasant to read. So yeah, just wanted to talk about it a bit. That's it. So yeah. Hey there. Just wanted to share the latest in the David murder case. This has been something I've been actively following. I know I've already made 2 videos about the case since his arrest, and well, time to make it a trilogy because I think it's important to cover this. There were a lot of people, and still, even in the face of everything I'm about to tell you that was brought up today from the prosecution, there are still a lot of people that are fighting tooth and nail, raising their shield to defend David, still believing with their whole heart and 2 neurons that he was framed and is actually a victim in all of this as well because he had nothing to do with the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a child whom David was dating, by the way. And the Dummies for David movement always likes to, bury that one as quickly as possible. He's homeschooled, so he didn't know. And he's just a little zany. He's a little quirky. He had no idea. That's bad. It's fucking lunacy to be acting like he's some blameless angel in all of this, in spite of all of the evidence that the public has access to. If you bother to do any amount of research on this case with just the information that is readily available to you right at your fingertips right now, all of it points to only one person who is most likely responsible for her murder, and that person is David. And now, as of today, we're getting even more new information, and it is fucking disgusting. They already mentioned a couple days ago that the prosecution has 40 terabytes here in this case against David. 40 fucking terabytes is an unfathomable amount of anything. And just a moment ago, they dropped like their first teaser as to what some of this new information looks like. The prosecution alleges that they found a significant amount of child porn on David's phone.
Story number 2. A hearing just wrapped up for singer David in his first-degree murder case.
The prosecution revealed details about disturbing digital evidence. Let's get to CBS LA's Rick Montanez with what we learned in court today. Rick, what are you hearing?
Amy, Chris, the hearing just wrapped up within the half hour here, and cameras were not allowed in court, but I can tell you that the defendant, David Burke, was in court today in shackles and wearing that orange jumpsuit. The biggest new piece of evidence revealed, prosecutors say a significant amount of child porn found on Burke's cell phone.
Now, I imagine that isn't just some baseless claim from the prosecution. They probably have all of that evidence as part of their 40 terabytes here that they will be providing to the court. There's still a lot of processing that they are going through right now because there is so much that they have gathered in this case over the last 7 months. But now they are stating they have evidence that there was a significant amount of child porn on David's device.
We also want to point out that this all happens one day after the medical examiner's report became public. That is the report on the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The report says, or I should say the family of Rivas Hernandez is absolutely devastated to learn the gruesome details contained in that write-up. That's according to a family statement. So this report says the 14-year-old girl died of sharp force trauma, but the autopsy was difficult because of the severe decomposition of her dismembered body when it was found in the singer's abandoned Tesla last September.
The autopsy revealed the grisly nature of her killing. It being sharp objects, and then it was mentioned why it was so difficult for them to figure out what actually killed her. It's because her body was chopped up and decomposing in the fucking trunk of this monster's car. So it made it difficult for the autopsy to definitively say what the cause of death was. And since the autopsy brought this information to light, people have been going through David's music and music videos and noticing some really fucking haunting shit in there. Most notably with the anime video he made for his song Rehab, where there is a character in there that bears a lot of similarity to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Now, the music video came out in 2023, but David met Celeste as early as 2022, and in this music video, David cuts off that character's arm and then throws a sword which stabs her in the stomach, killing her. In real life, Celeste had her body chopped into pieces and stuffed into bags, thrown in a trunk, and the autopsy revealed that her cause of death was sharp objects through the torso, notably her upper abdomen and hitting her liver. Now, of course, I have no doubt that none of that is going to be used in court in any way, shape, or form by the prosecution. I imagine they have far more solid evidence to be bringing to court in that 40 terabytes. I don't think they'll be using, like, similarities from the music video versus what actually happened, or, you know, video clips that exist where he's saying some crazy shit. I imagine they're going to be going for, like, completely irrefutable things that you can't just write off as a coinky-dink or something like that. But I wanted to mention it because it really does feel like David was just leaving breadcrumbs in his music to the sick and twisted person that he is, and that he had this, like, murderous intent. It's fucking sickening stuff.
On Monday, he pled not guilty to the capital murder charges. We spoke with a former federal prosecutor just a short time ago here on CBS LA Mornings about this new evidence revealed in today's hearing and the fact that David's phone, according to prosecutors, contains child porn.
And obviously, we don't know if it's Celeste Rivas's images and videos or something else, but that is a significant offense. Obviously, it helps prosecutors prove the sex crimes, the lewd and lascivious, Penal Code Section 288, but it's also a separate crime in and of itself. And it's certainly the possibility that the feds even step into this case because they typically will prosecute these types of child pornography cases.
It is extremely serious, and this is new information that's been brought forth from the prosecution here. And the fact that they are bringing this as evidence in this case must mean that they have irrefutable proof that on David's device, he had that material. I have no idea how the David defenders will even begin to wrestle with that in mental gymnastics, some kind of excuse there, like, he was just holding it for somebody else. He's been framed again. They put it there. They framed him for the murder, now they're framing him with child porn. I have no idea how they could even begin to tackle that one, because even though it hasn't been proven yet, the fact that the prosecution is even putting this forward means they must be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that, yeah, his phone had child porn on it. So that's the newest piece of information that's been brought up. Now, as mentioned, they are still going through a lot of processing for a lot of digital evidence that they have compiled. So in a week, I believe about a week, it's going to go back with both sides, and they're going to discuss if they need even more time about, going to a capital murder trial. So as of right now, we don't have everything being brought forth yet, but it is beginning and it's moving fast. The process is underway and it is moving very quickly. So I guess we'll know more in a week, but I just wanted to give you this update here because that new allegation coming to light here is once again another disgusting development here in the David case. Anyway, praying for justice for Celeste here. I truly don't see a world where David is innocent at all. And anyway, that's really about it. See ya. I couldn't decide if this was a good idea for a video to make just because of how dark and disturbing it is, but earlier today I saw a thread on Twitter going around listing the most evil artists and musicians of all time, and absent from the list was by far the most evil singer to ever hit the mainstream, Ian Watkins. And I was just shocked that not a lot of people seem to know about this. This was a story I followed as it unfolded back in 2012 because Ian Watkins was the frontman to my favorite band when I was a kid, Lost Prophets. In fact, if there's any archaeologists watching this and want to unearth some unholy relics, if you're able to find any re-uploads of my old Gears of War montages from 2007 and 2008, you'll hear Lost Prophets music that they're set to and edited in sync with. I used their music all the time in videos growing up because I was such a massive fan, so you can imagine how fucking disgusted I was when I learned the truth behind their singer. Ian Watkins' crimes are some of the most depraved I've ever read about, and in fact, the senior investigator said it was the most disturbing child abuse evidence he had seen in nearly 30 years on the force, and it's not an exaggeration. Ian Watkins was a serial child sexual abuser and even convinced some of his fans that were mothers to give up their kids to him to abuse, and would even convince the mothers to abuse their own children on video calls that he'd masturbate to. His sex crimes spanned years and even included the sexual abuse of a 10-month-old baby and attempted rape of a baby. Not only were his crimes some of the worst you could possibly imagine, but he was blatantly open about them as well. He'd even brag about fucking kids to some of his ex-girlfriends at the time. I feel like if the police officers had just asked him, "Hey, are you having sex with minors?" he would have hit them with a "hell yeah, brother," and then went up for a high five. The whole story of Ian Watkins and his arrest is also the story of terrible police work from the department. There were years of reports and people desperately trying to get him behind bars, and they just wouldn't look at the evidence. They refused to look at all of the overwhelming evidence that was constantly being provided to them. The reason he ended up getting arrested was on unrelated drug charges, and they just happened to find this absolute fucking mountain, like a goddamn Mordor. They wandered in there and happened to find all of this child abuse evidence, but they were there for drug reasons and continued to turn the other cheek and ignore all of the reports coming from victims or people that had already compiled evidence and submitted it to them. Now, like I said, he wasn't very secretive with what he was doing. He wasn't exactly like some kind of cunning, sly criminal mastermind. He was very open with the fact that he was a pedophile. Just look at this excerpt here. Look at one of the passwords he'd use for his computer. Ian Watkins is a sick psychopath who's currently serving 35 years in jail, which isn't nearly enough for his crimes. And he's not remorseful about it either. Like, just read this quote here, where he said he did it for the mega-lols, talking about abusing and raping kids. So anyway, after reading that Twitter thread about evil artists and musicians, I really think it's worth talking about this guy and his history, since it seems it flew under the radar for a lot of people. So I'm just going to give a brief summary of everything Ian Watkins and Lost Prophets related. As I mentioned at the beginning, they were my favorite band when I was a kid. Before I even got into rock and metal, like with the other mainstream bands, I was listening to Lost Prophets. You know, this is way back in the day, but there was something called Penguinz0, which allowed you to make your own websites easily. And when I was in 4th grade, I made my own Penguinz0 website called coldflames.penguinz0.com. Don't even bother searching for it. It's dead and buried 6 feet under, went straight to hell. Not even on archive.org. But on my Penguinz0 website, the very first thing that would happen when you went there is the music video for Lost Prophets' Rooftop song would play. That's right, I was like an early adopter of the K-pop stan culture where they just spam music videos everywhere to farm views for them. That's what I did for Lost Prophets on my website. So their music video for Rooftops would play, and then if you went to any of the other links on the side, a different Lost Prophets music video would play. I don't remember everything I posted on that website. I know a lot of it was RuneScape related, like giving updates on my character. But when I was giving updates, you would always be having a Lost Prophets music video play, like Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja or something like that. But yeah, all that to say, I was big into the band, so this shit hurt a lot learning about this. I've always had that mentality of you need to separate art from artist when it comes to things, but I've been unable to do that for this band. They were my favorite band when I was a young kid. I can't listen to them anymore after learning everything about Ian Watkins. It's impossible for me. I can't separate the art from the artist, especially considering Ian Watkins in one of their music videos even subtly hints at his crimes. In the music video for A Town Called Hypocrisy, Ian says at the end, "Hi kids, welcome to Town Time. We have an amazing show for you. You're going to learn all kinds of important lessons." And in hindsight, it's pretty clear what he was like saying here, knowing his history and what was actually going on behind the scenes, and it's so fucked up. Now let's get into the actual timeline as well as history of Ian Watkins and the band. I'm not going to be showing much footage at all here. I'm mainly just going to be telling the story. It just doesn't really sit right with me to show anything from them. Knowing what we know now about Ian Watkins, it just feels fucking weird and yucky. However, there is a great breakdown of this whole situation from a channel called Penguinz0, and they do show footage from the band as well as interviews of Ian Watkins, and they do a great job with it, so I recommend checking that out if you're interested in seeing more from the group as well as Ian and who he was as a person. But for me, I'm not going to be showing any of it, so let's get into it. Ian Watkins was the stepson of a Baptist minister and was an honor roll student. He basically fucking straight A'd his whole career as a student, graduated with honors from the University of Wales, and then in 1997 formed the Lost Prophets. They saw moderate success with their first album called The Fake Sound of Progress, but it was in 2004 with their follow-up album Start Something that they really broke into the mainstream spotlight. They sold 2.5 million copies and were propelled into stardom. They had their music videos on MTV. They even had Last Train Home on the soundtrack to NFL Street, which was a great game. NFL Street had a fucking wild soundtrack, but yeah, they were there. They were everywhere. Montages, back when Halo 2 montages were just starting to get their feet, Lost Prophets really took it by storm. They were a mainstream success, pretty much overnight with Start Something. With all the success came a lot of fans, many of which were underage girls that Ian Watkins would invite backstage after gigs. And from a couple of sources I've read, there were even rumors circulating around this time from media outlets that noted that there were minors backstage at these concerts around Ian Watkins, which made them uncomfortable, but they didn't really report on it or do anything on it, so I think that's a big fucking blunder from them. That is absolutely something that I think they should have raised an eyebrow with and looked into a bit deeper, but regardless. 2004, they had Start Something, they were blowing up. Ian Watkins was already abusing his status and starting to bring underage girls backstage. Then around 2008, he started getting addicted to hard drugs like crystal meth and cocaine. There was even a Music Insider that revealed more information to the depravity that was happening behind the scenes. They really blew the lid off the case of what was exactly going on back there. One of Ian Watkins' exes gave an extremely in-depth explanation for all of the awful shit that he was doing and interested in, from child pornography to bestiality to him believing he was invincible and untouchable. Her name is Joanne, and she spent years gathering evidence against Ian Watkins in order to get the authorities to take him in, investigate, and arrest him, but was ignored at every possible turn. I think Penguinz0 video does the best concise breakdown of the timeline here, so I'm just going to play a short clip from it before getting a little more in depth.
But did find it strange that there were so many young girls around the band that often. Joanne began receiving disturbing text messages from Watkins in 2008, following an incident in a video discovered by the police, in which the two are having sex, and Watkins is heard to tell Joanne that he can't wait to get you pregnant so they would have a child to abuse. Joanne then received a text message from Watkins in 2008, in which he bragged to Joanne that he had sex with multiple underage girls. Joanne, disgusted by this, went to the police immediately that same day, but unfortunately this would be the first of many instances in which Joanne was ignored.
It is worth noting that she did also say some horrible things to Ian. However, her side of the story is she was trying to gather as much evidence against him as possible to submit to the authorities to trap him and bring him to justice. So I think that's worth bringing up. She went to the police multiple times with her phone and laptop and asked them to look into it. Here's all the evidence, now please use it. And they never did. I don't know what their excuse was for not investigating further. Maybe because she was a sex worker for a time, so they didn't take her seriously, but they just wrote her off as an angry ex. Ian Watkins would regularly brag to her about having sex with kids. He would even send her images of actual, sexual abuse of children. And they just never took it seriously, at least not until Ian Watkins was actually arrested, and then they launched a massive investigation and arrested Joanne for possession of those images that Ian sent her. So she got arrested for the possession of the evidence she was gathering for the authorities, who just weren't doing their job here. She was eventually cleared of these charges, but still, just an awful situation all around. He could have been stopped much, much earlier if the authorities had bothered to look into it even slightly. Because, like I said, he wasn't really hiding anything. There were a lot of rumors dating as far back to 2004 about some of the awful shit he was doing. Like, they could have just done the bare minimum and gotten this guy way before 2012. You know, in that time, how many more victims were there, you have to wonder. It also wasn't just Joanne that was submitting all of this evidence or making all of these claims against Ian Watkins. There were a lot of different people that came forward. For example, an Australian woman told police that Watkins was a child abuser and drug abuser. Her email even concluded saying, "Do not disregard this as it's serious." Nothing happened. There was other complaints, including intelligence reports about Watkins' drug use and sexual interest in kids that kept getting submitted to the South Wales Police Department that didn't get investigated. In March 2012, a woman even told police that Watkins may have sexually assaulted an 11-month-old boy, and then even described images that could be found on his computer if they searched. But they didn't search. Now, I'm going to look into the case just a bit, but I'm not going to go that deep because it's way too gross to talk about. It's so bad, in fact, that the judge that sentenced Ian Watkins, as well as the two mothers I mentioned at the start of the video that abused their kids for him, he said this: "Those who have appeared in these courts at the bar or on the bench over many years see and hear a large number of horrific cases. This case, however, breaks new ground. What you three did plumbed new depths of depravity." The full sentencing remarks can be found online, but I don't encourage anyone out there to read them because they will make you sick to your stomach. You will absolutely fucking puke. It'll ruin your whole day trying to read this. I'm only going to read a couple and bits and pieces of them. I can't read half of this shit. It's so fucking painful to even say. I'm only going to do a couple here, just to give you an idea of how bad this guy was. This isn't even the whole thing. So here, count 18 dates back to March 2007. You met after a Lost Prophets concert when she was a 16-year-old virgin. The prospect of taking her virginity excited you. You got her to dress in a schoolgirl's outfit and you videoed her and you having oral, vaginal, and anal sex. You asked her whether she enjoyed being your underage slut. At the end, you urinated over her face and told her to drink it. That gives you some insight into your attitude to young females at the time. Over 5 years before counts relating to count 19 dates back to August 2008. The girl was another fan, age 16. You videoed her having oral sex with you, and she is seen snorting white powder, which you told her was cocaine. This next part, I think, is going to be one of the most disturbing things you'll probably ever hear. This is in regards to the mothers, to one of them in particular. But you were a mother. Your infant was only 10 months old. A mother naturally loves, protects, shields, nurtures, and cherishes. Your infant would have trusted you implicitly. You betrayed that trust. What did you do? You had a detailed discussion with Watkins about the sexual acts to which the two of you were going to subject your infant. That's as far as I'm going to read, because then it goes into detail about what happened with Watkins, the mother, and that baby. And there is a video of it where they are sexually abusing a 10-month-old baby. And it's described in detail in the sentencing remarks. It is horrific. And this isn't all of it. Like, these were only 3 counts that I just read to you. It goes on and on and on. I think Ian Watkins is the biggest monster to have ever existed in any capacity as a celebrity or a singer, and just one of the most depraved individuals I've ever read about. They talk about the child pornography images and videos he has with kids aged 2 to 12. It's like an endless amount of the worst things you could possibly imagine. So yeah, I think the answer to who is the most evil artist or musician of all time is Ian Watkins. There's a long list of horribly fucked up celebrities out there, and I think Ian Watkins is somewhere towards the top of that list. That's about it. So yeah. I just watched an extremely interesting case presented by the Law and Crime Trial Network that I just had to share with all of you because it really feels like the plot line to a late 90s soap opera. It's got an evil wife, and let me tell you, she's a real battle axe, and she's hatched a nefarious plan to poison her husband for life insurance money, allegedly. I hate that I have to use the word here because the overwhelming amount of video evidence and everything makes it very clear that that's what was going on, but apparently you gotta say that word when talking about something like this. But anyway, that's not where the whole story stops, because the husband becomes aware of it, but can't act on it right away, so has to continue to play along with the woman that's actively trying to kill him. And then when he eventually takes it to authorities, they initially don't act on it, so then he has to gather even more evidence. It's just so fucking wild, and I just have to show this to all of you, because this really does feel almost make-believe. It feels like something Darman would write if instead of making, don't judge a book by its cover videos, he made murder mysteries.
A military wife is now charged with attempted first-degree homicide after her husband allegedly caught her on camera pouring bleach into his coffee maker. He says it was all to get life insurance benefits.
It really does make me giggle every time allegedly is thrown out in a case like this, where you can actually just watch it happen on the fucking Jumbotron. And especially with this one, because the husband was super thorough with all of the hidden cameras he set up. So you can get like a 360-degree video of all the poisoning attempts. You got every goddamn cinematic angle imaginable, and yet still allegedly poisoning attempts. Again, I fully understand why they have to keep saying that word here, because she hasn't been found guilty in court yet of all of the charges. But I mean, it's pretty clear. The answer to this game of Clue is Feliciano in the kitchen with the bleach and coffee maker. Like, we can tell.
The man, quote, suspected someone was tampering with his coffee, and in May 2023, while still in Germany, he set up a camera in his house. The husband alleged his wife used bleach as a form of poison, storing the chemical under the sink.
This is one of many videos that capture her pouring bleach into his coffee pot. So he became alert to something a bit off about his coffee and suspected tampering with it. And I imagine he was able to taste something was wrong immediately. Bleach is like one of the most agitating chemicals you can ever fucking ingest. Like, coffee is not going to disguise it. It's not like the perfect Trojan horse to deliver bleach into your system. You'd probably take a single sip and immediately go, pooey, yucko, wow, like, ouch. That doesn't taste like coffee, it tastes like fucking poison. You would have better luck shitting into his coffee pot and hoping he doesn't notice. There's at least a chance coffee can mask poop, but not bleach. Like, even if you have no taste buds, you would probably feel something is wrong with your coffee with bleach being mixed into it. So immediately, I imagine, he was tipped off that something was very awry here. So he set up the camera. I don't know if he immediately suspected it was his wife. Maybe he thought there was some kind of like burglar coming in to fuck with him and pour bleach into his coffee pot or something. I don't know if he immediately started to point fingers at his wife. I imagine he probably did, because I mean, who the fuck else is going to break in there and pour coffee or pour bleach into the coffee, unless it's like the Tooth Fairy out for revenge or something. So I don't know how surprised he was to see that, but I still imagine that that was traumatizing to know that the person that you are married to, the person that is the most important person in your life, is actively trying to kill you.
Court documents state that at the time, during May 2023, the husband, quote, stopped drinking the coffee but continued to pretend to drink it as he did not want to make a report of this while in Germany. He said he knew his wife would continue poisoning him and wanted to submit a report while in the US.
This is such an interesting conundrum. So he didn't want to make the report while in Germany and continues to fake drink the coffee, playing a game of pretend here, and then also, I assume, pretending that everything's okay in the marriage between them, even though he knows in the back of his head his fucking wife is trying to kill him. And his wife doesn't know that he knows, so she continues to make attempts to poison him. When I try and picture this situation in my head, I immediately just start thinking about the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but without, like, the guns. So instead of, like, dumping lead at each other, shooting at each other, it's his wife really insisting on trying the coffee. A new recipe, perhaps. So, and he's just like, oh, this is good, very good, but he knows.
1 month later, in late June, the family returned to the United States and was stationed at an Air Force base in Tucson, Arizona. At that point, additional cameras were set up. Video captures Feliciano Johnson pour something into the coffee pot and look over her shoulder to see if anyone is watching. By early July, her husband reported his findings to the Tucson Police Department.
So this ruse continued for over a month, with the husband pretending to keep drinking the coffee, giving his best Oscar-winning acting performance. Honey, this coffee is so good. Wow, delectable. Rubbing his tummy, all of that. I also can't help but wonder if he tried to, like, mess with her a little bit. Not trying to poison her, obviously, but, like, make her believe that the poison was working. Like, did he start faking a sickness or something? Did he start, making it seem as though he was falling ill in order to see how she'd respond? Like, he just, puts a thermometer in his mouth and he's, like, looking real pale and he's like, oh, babe, I don't know what's going on. I'm not feeling too good. Making a bunch of, like, coughing noises to see how she reacts to it, to try and catch her with, like, joy in her eye that her plan is working. Or if he just simply kept drinking this, or pretending to drink the coffee, and his wife must have thought that he was fucking immortal, just legitimately immune to poison. Which is a pretty scary thought, and pretty concerning considering he lived with her and went through this for over a month now, with someone actively trying to murder him. And if she really thought that bleach had no effect on him, like he was just built different, bleach doesn't work, I just would be worried that she'd try other things that maybe he didn't pick up on, or wouldn't have picked up on if it continued, you know what I mean? But anyway, he gathered all this evidence and then he brought it to the authorities.
Showed the officers at the front desk the video, but since you could not clearly see what she was pouring into the coffee maker, the report was taken with no follow-up. At that point, he purchased additional cameras disguised as fire alarms. He set them up in the laundry room and in the kitchen area where the coffee maker was located.
So it wasn't actionable evidence because they couldn't clearly see what she was pouring into the coffee maker. So the guy says, all right, fuck it, check this out then. You need more? I got you with more. So he sets up a ton of cameras, gets every possible angle here. He's got so many cameras set up, he could probably render his whole house in VR with this kind of setup. So he's got everything covered. Now you can clearly see that she's pouring bleach into the coffee maker in certain videos. And he even goes a step further by conducting his own at-home experiments to confirm his theory.
Normal. I smell it. I can smell it. I can smell it. Soapy. Tea. You're gonna see purple. Boom.
Science, bitch. Now we're Breaking Bad here. So he's got even more proof, not only with the video evidence of his wife pouring bleach into his coffee pot, but now he is confirming the presence of the bleach in the coffee pot even after having it drained all day and all of that. Now he has an overwhelming amount of proof against his wife.
Feliciano Johnson was caught on camera multiple times, appearing to pour bleach in the laundry room, walking it into the next room, and then pouring it into the coffee maker. After collecting multiple videos that showed her allegedly pouring the bleach into the machine, Feliciano Johnson was arrested on July 18th.
I'm assuming she did all of this while the husband wasn't home because she is pouring the bleach in the laundry room and walking it to the kitchen, so literally walking through the house with bleach in her hand. If the husband ever saw that, she would immediately know that he would know that something is really fucking foul going on here. Why are you transporting bleach around the house? Like, what could possibly be the excuse, you know? Oh, babe, you're home. It's great to see you. What do you mean, why is the bleach in my hand? Oh, actually, I just wanted you to just take a peek at it real quick. Just tell me, does the bleach smell weird? Splash. You know, like, there's really not a whole lot of wiggle room for an excuse on why you're